This is the finished product of what we're going to make today. It's a great idea for a wedding or a birthday party. Very simple decoration that we can hang up and it looks very effective. As you can see, it looks like rose petals, but in fact I've made it using cake patty pans. The way that we start is to get our patty pans and choose a colour that we like. This one I use red tones with some pink tones. Today, however, I'm going to use pink. First of all, you soak your patty pans in a solution of the dye with some water. I've just used various shades of the dye, so putting more dye in to make the shades darker or lighter. I've used 4 variations here, and these are the colours you can see. To get the tea stained look, which is the brown sort of stain, I've just used a solution of a little bit of tea, so soaking 1 tea bag, and then a couple of drops of the pink dye, sorry. Okay, then to start putting our bombieri together, I've used a polystyrene ball. These patty pans I've allowed to dry overnight. I find it best to use a cake or a muffin tin. That way they sit in and any excess dye drains to the bottom, and it also gives you a bit of a shape to start with. Now to start, what I do is get the various colours, and I put say 2 or 3 of the patty pans together, pinch at the bottom, and then scrunch, and that gives you your roselet shape. You then get your pin and attach it to your polystyrene ball, like so. I alternate with the colours, so I'll then do some tea stained ones. Again, I put 3 together there, pinch at the bottom and scrunch to make your roselet shape, and pin to the ball. Okay, get a slightly darker pink colour. Again, scrunching at the bottom, just pinching and twisting, and that makes your roselet shape. If you find that your roselets are too bunched together, when you finish pinning them to the ball, you can actually separate the patty pans and create the shape that you like. I think it works best if you put more. It makes more of a rose shape, and scrunch them in as tightly as you can. And some darker ones. These ones aren't quite dry, but that's fine. They actually go on easier if they're wet. So again, scrunching at the bottom with a little bit of a twist to make the roselet shape. And pin. You just continue that process. You can put in some white if you like. That often gives it a little bit of a lighter look. However, I do find if you're going to use the white ones, it is best to soak them in water first, otherwise they don't fan out properly and they keep the crinkled look, which I don't particularly think is as effective as the rose look. And you just continue. You can, if you like, put 1 of each of the colours together. So here I've got the 1, 2, 3, 4 shades, and put them together, and once again twist, and that gives you another effect. Okay, and pin that on. If you're having trouble with the pins, you can use a hot glue gun. However, I found with the hot glue gun, if you have the glue directly on the polystyrene, it can melt the polystyrene. So I try to put the hot glue on to the patty pans before I put them onto the polystyrene ball, and just to give it a few seconds to cool off, for the glue to cool off before you put it onto the polystyrene ball, otherwise it will melt it. These pins are also dressmaking pins, and they've got quite a narrow top on them. You can use quilting pins, which have a bit of a bobble on the end, which make it a little bit easier. Just continue. You can use any colour also. As I've said, this one's more of a pink tone. I have made some with blue for a boys' party, which looked really effective. And the one I showed you previously, I've used more of a red dye. This one's definitely more pinker tones. For some of the bigger patty pans, I've got a selection here. I had some smaller ones and some bigger ones. You can usually just put two together and scrunch, and you do get the same effect without having to use 3 or 4. Now I'm just going to go through and fill in the gaps and continue that process until all the gaps are filled in. Once again, you can make it as tightly packed or as loosely packed as you like. I think tightly packed does work better than loosely packed. Now once you get halfway around, it can be a little bit difficult. So what I tend to do is put the rosette under the existing ones that you've already pinned and pin sideways. Alternately, you can pin straight through the rosettes, straight through the middle. So here's an example of that. So here's my rosette. Again, I twist, get the pin and pop it straight through the middle if you're having difficulty pinning, and that gives you a point to pin with. Now, when you're finished and you're happy with your rosette, you've gone all the way around, I've just got some sequined string here that I picked up from one of the craft stores quite cheaply, and I would just pin that on to give you something to hang it with. Alternatively, you can use a ribbon or some curling ribbon for presents, and that's your bombieri all finished.